Welcome to Live From Your Heart. I'm your host, Les Paul Klein. For 3 decades of my life, I've lived trying to get others' approval, not the truth. I lived to be accepted, but I wasn't real authentic. And what did it cost me? Pieces of myself over and over. I didn't realize I was even losing those pieces. This podcast, it's for anyone who knows deep down that they've been living someone else's version of their life and they're ready. You're ready to come home to your own heart and be real and be authentic. Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. It's possible to reclaim your own heart. So every week we're going to talk about reclaiming that identity and healing old patterns and finding courage again and finally living from the truest and most grounded place inside of you, your heart. This isn't therapy. It's not self-help. It's just a real huge invitation for you to come and learn how to live a real life from your own heart. So let's jump in. Hey, welcome to Live From Your Heart. It's your host, Les Paul Klein. We are moving through the story. And today we're talking about rediscovering the person that you lost along the way. I was thinking through my entire life. And if you've followed my podcast up to this point, you kind of know where we are in my story. If you've not listened to the podcast from the beginning, I'd really recommend you go backwards. Go back to one and get caught up because every week I've been layering this. As I've talked about from week to week, I got labeled by my parents. I was going to be that preacher boy. And that phrase, you've heard me say this if you've been listening, my parents used to repeat over and over again, "We failed with the first two, so we had two more. These are our preacher boys." The farthest thing was from the truth and reality in our culture, in our lives today, because neither one of us are preacher boys. But the struggle to rediscover who was lost, it's been a lifelong struggle for me. Lifelong. I got to tell you, your journey may not be any different. There have been windows along my journey where I saw glimpses of who Les Paul Klein really was. But the window has never been real large until I got much, much, much older. There's a lot of time. I can say this. Honestly, I probably wasted close to, adult years, probably 22 to 25 adult years of my life, just wondering. I've heard people say this to me. My gosh, you've had so many different occupations. Well, I have, because I couldn't figure out what it was that I was supposed to be when I was allowed to grow up. Yeah, I needed permission to grow up. I needed permission to be who I was supposed to be, and I was still seeking that permission. So rediscovering who was lost has been a journey because, folks, we don't become somebody new as much as we remember somewhere back where there was truth in our life. we remember that true person. I gotta tell you, there are just small little window glimpses of who I really was, growing up years. So let me walk through this. It'll be a little bit different today, but let me walk through this to kind of frame it for you. Um, who were you? Who was I before the expectations came along? Who was I before the responsibilities took over? Who was I before the roles that I played and that I filled? Who did I used to be? Who did I used to be? Therein lies the whole problem. For me, my identity was identified and cast by my parents. So there was not an adult time to discover who I really was. And so there are quips, there's little mini series in my life where I was reaching to discover who I was. You know, I couldn't figure it out. My first attempt, I followed my parents' path. And so I took a position with a church as the music minister. And I'm a talented musician, singer, player. And I quickly discovered that um, it was a place where I didn't fit. And the first place that I went to work had some toxicity that was just over the top. Here I am, a young, married person, and we're about to have our first child. And there were things going on that I shouldn't be even exposed to. And so I sought counsel and I moved to a different church in a different city. And it was a couple 100-mile move. Um, felt like a better fit. But quickly I discovered again, not my true identity. I didn't thrive. My talent rose up, but I wasn't in the right place. And it was about 6 months, and the pastor made major shift decision. He decided to retire, and he had picked his successor. And so he was going to stay on. The successor pastor was coming in, and they cut my job. So, boom, I'm gone. In desperation, I stepped out and took a music minister's job in a place where I should never have gone. And I can tell you, 6 weeks, I spent 6 weeks of hell in this place. And it was worse than toxic. It was an abomination. And I had to make a quick decision. Do I stay here or do I move on? Because I was not a fit for this place. And it was a really bad place. Huge church, stupid things going on. And so I'm out. Okay, so now I've tried what my parents wanted me to do. And so far, I've found no place I fit. There was a lot of garbage going on in all three places. And, that was like 14 months. So, got this wild hair idea. I'm going to head down a path that perhaps I want to go down. And, you know, I started trying to understand what my role was going to be in my choices. And I would say that where I landed in this was in survival mode. And that's where a lot of people just land when they're trying to find themselves. They get buried, and they were in survival, and that's what those 3 jobs were about. Got buried, I'm just trying to survive, um, and I was trying to please my parents, and we went through a lot of trauma. There was a lot of fear, sleepless nights, "What do we do now?" Um, wow, and I just paused, and I went, "Okay, I've gotta find something that I fit into," and, an opportunity presented itself to, be a police officer, go to an academy and be trained, get out on the street, work as a police officer, and so, um, part of who I really was had an opportunity to blossom. Now, I'm gonna tell you that this flew in the face of my parents, but there'd been some transition in their life. Since I had left home and married and tried this ministry thing, they had retired and they had moved. So now my father was no longer a pastor anymore. They'd shifted their entire life and everything looked completely different for them. So there was not the pressure that I had gotten from them prior to. And I'm now back in the same town they are because what do you do when you hit bottom and you're financially, scraping? What you've tried doesn't work. Yeah, so literally, I'm down the street from my parents. Literally, I'm not kidding. Like 6 houses from them, and I'm stepping into a law enforcement job, and I like it, and I thrive in it. And I began to see signs of who perhaps I'm going to develop into. Yeah, there was restlessness, but there was desire to be something other than what my parents had called me to do. Yeah, that frustration had been there, but it felt like it was going away. And there was this whisper in my ear, there's more. Look, there's opportunity. Now, cops don't make any money. And I quickly discovered that $7 and 49 cents an hour to risk your life was a tough gig, but that's what they paid. That's exactly what they paid. So I went with it. And it's it was a opportunity and a time for me to rediscover um, who was lost and that I was emerging. And I had an opportunity in a call to give life saving um, CPR and saved a little child's life, actually. And from that, there were an accommodation from the city that I worked for and accolades and all this, and a front page newspaper regionally, calls from many people. I remember my old scoutmaster from my hometown Canadian who called me. And, it was like, okay, maybe I found my calling. Maybe I'm in that place, but there's still restlessness. There's still an underlying current that I'm just not settled and trying to find my identity. But there's still this churn. And, it's like most of the time it was a movement forward. You ever felt that? But you still have this little piece of you going, yeah, well, that's kind of the way it was. Um, this is good. I like this, but Is there more? Is there more? Um, but here's what was taking place. I was reclaiming my identity. I was following small desires, and I was finding that I liked this job. I liked what came with it. I liked the opportunity, and there were other opportunities in bigger venues, in larger departments, in state jobs. So I was listening and I was seeking, and I made sergeant in 2 years. Um, Supervisory role, was doing well. I had, um, just a place where I was getting comfortable, and I was rediscovering who perhaps Les Paul Klein was gonna be, when he finally grew up, and then tragedy struck. Now that's part of the next story. So this is a short one, but yet it's really, really important because I want you to hear this. When you're rediscovering the person that was lost along the way, you need help. I didn't have any help. I'm out there on my own. And my parents, though they were not involved anymore in leadership role, pastoring role, their influence was down the street. And we have a new little boy who's growing. And, soon we're going to have another little boy. And their influence, their tentacles were out there. Was I going to be able to break away? Yeah, it's tough to break that mold. It's tough to break that influence. But I was on a path of rediscovering who I was supposed to be. And truthfully, if I go all the way back to just a younger me, there had only been little windows of who I was going to be. And I didn't understand this until much later in life. I needed help. I really did need help. You may be at that same place. And that's what I've done is develop just a literally a coaching plan for people who have walked a similar path. They're trying to find their heart. And, you may be 50 or older. I kind of thrown that down in front of people. This is for people who are 50 and older who have spent a lifetime trying to find themselves, find their own heart, find their own voice. You may be that person. You may need help. In the show notes, there's a connection to me. The way it starts is that you and I have a conversation. Bottom line, I'm not sending you to a link. I'm sending you to an opportunity for you and I to just talk. I'm ready to listen if you're ready to talk. And I can help you walk you through in a 6-month or even a 12-month window. Depends on you as to what your needs really are. But first is let's hear your story. Let's hear your heart. Are you ready to make a change? Are you ready to rediscover who got lost? So I hope you'll do that. Click the show notes. I'll encourage you again to click the show notes as I close out my podcast. But just remember this, with some work, you can rediscover who you really are. Hope you have a blessed day. It's Les Paul Klein from Live From Your Heart, and I'll see you on the next podcast. If today's episode stirred something in you, That's your heart speaking. If you're ready to go deeper into this work, let me invite you to come and join me in my Live from Your Heart coaching experience. It's a 6-month journey. I can take you back to the truth, help you learn your real identity, and uncover that emotional freedom that's yours to have. If you'd like to know more about my coaching experience, Live from Your Heart, you'll find the link down in the show notes. Until next time, folks, live from your heart. It's the only life that's truly yours.